I understand you have some questions for me. Well, let's go for a ride, shall we? All right. I was born in Tucson, Arizona, which is sort of the butthole of Arizona. Well, that's not true. That's probably Douglas, Arizona, but Tucson's pretty close. All Tucson hate aside, I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona until about 3 days after I turned 18, when I left for home, as one does. From there, I lived a short time in Columbus, Georgia, and then went to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Now, some of you may know what that means. The rest of you just know that it was for a government work job. Matter of fact, the only one that you can get when you're 18. Now, I never really went anywhere and did anything cool during my time in North Carolina, and eventually I came back home. I spent the next few years trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do with my life. Now, something to know about me is that I was always fascinated by history growing up. And now I had a better sense of the person I was and a vastly improved work ethic and understanding of my capabilities. So I called my dad up one night and said, "You know, I think I want to be a historian." To that, he replied, "Why?" I said, "Well, I'm really into history and I miss being out in the field and getting my hands dirty. I think I'd like to go out and explore and find things." To that he said, "I think you want to be an archaeologist." So I looked it up and he was correct. That is exactly what I wanted to do. So later I did some research to find places to learn how to be an archaeologist, and come to find out one of the best, and because I was a resident of Arizona, cheapest options was to go to Pima Community College. They had a pretty extensive archaeological curriculum with options for direct hire. Now, they really specialize in the American Southwest, and I really didn't want to do archaeology in the American Southwest. I wanted to dig in Greece. But one of the instructors that I had a meeting with told me something that ended up being incredibly true, which is, if you can do archaeology in the Southwest, you can do archaeology anywhere. And she's right. Archaeology in the American Southwest, especially in the Tucson Basin, is pretty difficult. Everything looks like dirt. So I signed up for a couple classes just to sort of get my feet wet and see how well I liked it. And I absolutely loved and excelled at it. It should come to no surprise to you, the viewer, that I ended up sticking with it. Shortly after my first semester, I was recruited into a cultural resource management or CRM firm, but I didn't actually do my first job until about a year after I started school. Later, I worked 2 seasons teaching Boy Scouts about archaeology at Philmont Boy Scout Ranch, where I first learned of interpretation and got my first taste of educating the public. I graduated Pima Community College in 2017 with 2 associate's degrees and a handful of direct employment certificates. I still had a desire, however, to do ancient Greek archaeology, but I was starting to learn that I had a knack for both public speaking and finding creative ways of doing interpretation. Following someone's recommendation from Philmont, I applied at the National Park Service as an interpretive park ranger and was immediately hired to the first place I ever applied to. I ended up working for the National Park Service for a few years, going to places such as New Mexico, Wyoming, and even spending a year in the Virgin Islands. But I learned something during my time in the Federal Service, and that was unless you have a bachelor's degree at a minimum, you don't really get taken seriously by archaeologists. So I decided to go back to school and ended up at the University of Arizona, double majoring in classical civilizations and anthropology with an archaeology focus, keeping in mind that at this point I had several years of experience as an archaeologist and many years of consuming information regarding ancient Greece. So it was no surprise that I did just fine with those degrees. And about 3/4 of the way through my schooling, I decided to start this YouTube channel because I recognized that there was something missing with YouTube and archaeology, and I felt that my unique set of skills would fill that hole pretty well. Now, before you go into the comment section and tell me about all the other channels that deal with archaeology, I know about that. But what I was looking for was things like, has anyone built Knossos in Minecraft or something like that? And I didn't really find anything. So I saw my opportunity and I took it. Yeah, this will definitely do. Yeah, this is really nice out here. Just so YouTube does not demonetize me or this video, this is a soda, not a beer. Soda. Okay, it's a Mexican soda. If you can find them in your town, I definitely recommend them. They got a whole bunch of different flavors, but it is a soda, not alcohol. So please, for God's sakes, don't demonetize me for that. Okay. Now, I answered some questions on the way up here. Let's see here. Did I get everything or did I miss anything? No. All right. Yeah, looks like I got everything. So, all right. So to answer your questions about archaeology, let's go ahead and shift over to Daskalos, who's currently in the field. Daskalos, take it away. Hold on. Oh, okay then. How are you? Cool. Yeah, way cool. Oh, he's back. So, I just came in from the field. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Let's get started. Have you or your team ever found something that's legitimately impacted people's view of history in a serious way? What was it? No. No, we haven't. It'd be cool, but no, we haven't. Next question. Have you ever been in a situation where natural events or disasters have messed up dig sites? And yes, I have. For 2 seasons, I was at a Philmont Boy Scout ranch. Some of you may recognize me from that. If so, welcome. And I had an excavation that was going on, and the rains came in, totally washed down a bunch of silt and dirt and completely reburied my excavation. Yeah, it sucked, but it did. I had something kind of destroy. It didn't really destroy it. It messed it up. I had to re-dig it again to the spots that we were at and then continue on. But basically, yeah, I have. It was not fun. So let's get into some topics. I've clumped together some of your questions because a lot of them have very similar themes. This one's going to be called Findings. So, what would be the strangest or most unexpected thing in your opinion that you found as an archaeologist? Golf balls. Yeah, they're everywhere. Golf balls. Also, the cores of batteries, like AAA and AA batteries, they're everywhere too. I don't know what you guys do with your golf balls or your batteries, but apparently chucking them into the middle of nowhere is a valid strategy, apparently. Is there anything that you found that has surprised you in how similar, dissimilar culture or civilization was compared? Okay, this one, yes. Let me see. Mugs. Mugs are everywhere through all time periods. You have them in the Americas, you have them everywhere. The vario cup, which is an ancient Greek thing, Bronze Age thing, it's a mug. The ancestral Puebloans of the American Southwest have mugs. They're all mugs. Apparently, a small round cup with a handle that you can grab is universal to all cultures, everywhere. And it makes sense. It's a very utility type thing, but yeah, mugs. While digging up any sites, have you accidentally found anything extinct? Yes. Kind of neat. I was in a canyon, sandstone canyon. Up on the top of the canyon was a bunch of sandstone that had fossilized leaves, leaf imprints on them, and in one of the sites that I was excavating, we actually found one on the floor of a prehistoric home, which means that someone in antiquity went up there, saw it, thought it was cool, and brought it back down, which is pretty cool. It just means humans have been humans. They see something cool and they take it. What would you say is your favorite excavation you've worked on? Either because of the people, or stuff, yeah. I honestly think that the excavations at Philmont so far have been my favorite, but I also haven't done a lot of excavation, and we'll get into why that is later on during the misconceptions portion. The neat thing about Philmont was that it was a excavation that was all mine, and it had a public aspect to it, where I had scouts come up and I taught them about archaeology, and then very closely monitored them while they themselves excavated. And it was a really cool time because they would dig things up, and in the screens they would find them and their eyes would light up. It was a very cool time because you could see that initial spark of archaeology sort of manifesting itself. Moving on. What is the funniest, most unexpected thing you found in archaeology? Golf balls. Yeah, golf balls. Did you ever have a moment where something didn't make sense in a place it was found but clicked later? Fixing a bunch of problems? Not really. I did have something that I found. It was a chipped axe head that was broken in half. And I didn't notice it at the time, but when I got back to the lab and was looking it over, it was purposefully broken. It actually had the scar on it that showed that it was hit with another stone and purposefully broken, which opens up a ton of possibilities that could have been why they did that. Your imagination can run wild with it. What is the most interesting artifact or site you've ever excavated? I've been asked that a lot as an archaeologist, and I guess it really depends on what you think of as interesting or cool, or however you want to phrase it. A couple things come to mind. The broken axe, for obvious reasons. I once found an obsidian projectile point, so arrowhead to some of you. It was about this big, and it had thinning flakes going across the face of it, a very even pattern, and it was so thin that you could see through it. There's no way you could use it for what a projectile point is supposed to be used for. And the amount of effort that went into making that was incredible. So it was a very highly skilled person making it, and they were making it not for use, which is what makes it really cool. So it was for looks only, and I thought that was kind of a neat thing. Have you ever lied about finding something, like ever? No, I have not. And there's a reason why. There is nothing to be gained from lying about something that you have found, or lying that you have found something. Because archaeologists are, well, sometimes they're jerks, and they like to fact check each other, or they like to double check things, and it will never really work to your benefit to say, yes, I found this, because someone's always going to doubt that and check it. Also, a lot of the work that I've done has been for government entities, so contract-wise. So we get contracted to check something for, let's say, BLM, Forest Service, something like that. The archaeologists are actually going to double check our work because they have to. So if you lie and say you found a Clovis point, which is a really old projectile point, in a certain site, they're going to want to see that. So no, I've never lied about anything I've found. Ever. Moving on, let's go to some regular questions now. What would the archaeological process be like if they found a ruin on Mars? And following questions too. I've actually talked about this a lot with friends of mine. I think that is going to be an emerging science as humans sort of get out into space. Because with all the worlds, all the inhabitable worlds, and for as long and as old as the universe is, we're eventually going to find remnants of a civilization. And what that is going to look like, the archaeology, what that's going to look like, I have no idea. Are they going to be doing the same stuff that we've done before? Stone tools? Are they going to be building things like how we've done before? Don't know. It's hard because you can't base what we do or the idea of what we would find based off of what we've done in the past. So I think it's a really neat idea. I don't think we're going to use rovers, to be honest with you. I really don't think we're going to use rovers to do any of that. I think it's going to be boots on the ground, actual archaeologists doing it. Because I think by the time that we go to find, by the time we find evidence of an ancient civilization or a past civilization like that we were going to actually do any kind of archaeology, we're going to have the technology to get out there. But xenoarchaeology is something that I've really thought of a lot, and I think it's a really cool idea. And I'm glad you brought it up because that is awesome. I think it's a really cool thing that's gonna be something in the future. Do archaeologists eventually run out of ancient sites to excavate within an area of expertise? They could, absolutely. It all depends, though, what your area of expertise is, because what is considered to be an archaeological site, or how old something has to be considered to be an archaeological site, is always moving forward, because it's anything that's 50 years old, and I'll get to that a little bit later on too. So, well, at least in America. Other places it's different. So it all depends. A lot of these questions are going to be, it all depends. The answer is going to just be about, it all depends. So, yeah, I mean, eventually, yeah, they will. If their area of expertise is running out of stuff to dig up, yeah. Maybe they need to think about hitting another expertise. Break time. Let's go ahead and answer some questions real quick. All right. If you were to call your fan community a name, Taylor Swift has the Swifties, what would you call us? I'd call you the Swifties. No, I wouldn't call you the Swifties. No, I don't know. Bronze Tribe, maybe? I mean, but we're going to get into the classical era at some point. So, I mean, that's probably not a good one. Mathetes, the Greek word for student. I don't know. What do you think I should call you? Should we even call you anything? It's kind of weird, right? I don't know. It's, anyways, yeah, I don't know. No, that's a good question. I don't know what I would call you. Do you have a favorite fossil Pokemon? If so, which one and why? I don't. I actually don't. Unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Pokemon was never really something I got into. When it became pretty big in America, I was just kind of not really into it. Same thing with Power Rangers too, which is weird because as an adult, I'm starting to appreciate it, things like that a little bit more, the weird campy stuff. But anyways, yeah, no, I don't have a favorite fossil Pokemon or any Pokemon. Sorry. I'll tell you what, let's get back to other Daskalos. What advice would you give somebody who's absolutely fascinated by history and archaeology but can't handle going through academia again? Join the Park Service. Become an interpretive park ranger and do that. If you really love archaeology, if you really love history, do that. You are going to be teaching, granted, you're going to be teaching the public about this stuff, but you are going to have a wealth of knowledge thrown at you. And the programs that you can give in the Park Service are endless. Join the Park Service as an interpretive park ranger or an interpretive guide and do that. That is what I would suggest. If you don't want to go back to school, that's what you should do. What advice would you give for a student archaeologist who's trying to find their specialty region of study? I once heard somebody tell me that if you wanted to know what it is that you should do for a profession, Think about what you would do if money was never an issue. What would you do if money was never an issue? Sort of the same idea for this too. If you want to figure out what your specialty is, think about if making money and living, making enough money to live off of wasn't an issue, what would your specialty be? What really gets you going? What do you like? And then come up with a backup that you can actually make money at. Okay? That's what I do. Classical archaeologist, I work in the American Southwest. American Southwest pays the bills. Classical archaeology, well, doesn't unless you're much higher up with your degree. Did you accidentally open a sealed Egyptian tomb late in 2019 that caused the events of 2020 and beyond to transpire? No comment. Student in archaeology here. What do you think will be the new tools we develop in the near future? Okay, so actually I was just talking about this with the crew that I was working with. I think two things are going to be the next big technology with archaeology, mostly for survey. Drones, that's pretty much already coming up. There have been times where we needed to survey a spot up high, couldn't get to. Drones are going to be the future there. Second thing, wearables. Okay, so a pair of glasses that you wear that has a heads-up display that tells you what your UTMs are and your GPS, will overlay a path for you along your transect. Maybe has a camera in it so you can take pictures of artifacts as you take them up. Maybe has a little voice recorder so you can actually do things like that. I think wearables are the next thing. I think that's the next big thing. And if any of you tech savvy people want to talk with me a little bit more about that, hit me up on my Discord, and yeah, let's get some stuff going. What qualifications do you need to become an archaeologist? Well, you need to have a degree, specifically in anthropology with an archaeology focus, but not necessarily. I was recruited directly out of community college without a degree. Granted, I showed some promise and I kind of picked it up pretty quick, but basically you need to have some field experience under your belt. You can get that through a field school or by doing any kind of field classes at like a local college or university. An associate's degree is probably a good idea. Bachelor's is even better, but you don't have to have that to be an archaeologist. Nowadays, it's getting harder and harder to get work without those degrees, but you can do it. The community college I went to in Tucson, Arizona, called Pima Community College, has one of the best field programs, in my opinion, in the country. And when I graduated there with an associate's degree, I had probably about a good 6 months worth of field experience just from those classes. I was recruited directly out of Pima Community College before I had my associate's degree. So, you can do it, but if you're wanting to get work in the CRM field or some other kind of field like that, associates or bachelors at a minimum. If you're wanting to get federal work, like with the Park Service or Forest Service or BLM, bachelor's at a minimum. And that's an anthropology degree with an archaeology focus, and probably a field school too. If you had the chance to redo any historical excavation with modern day knowledge, okay, which one would you choose? Troy. Absolutely, Troy. And before any of you Schliemann haters get into the comments and start typing, stop typing right now. Schliemann did some things wrong on that excavation, but archaeologists dropped the ball, okay? He actually went to archaeologists asking for help, and they told him no. They told him he was an idiot. He decided to do it himself without any kind of archaeology experience. We could have helped him, but we didn't. So if I could go back in time and do any excavation, absolutely Troy. I think we would know so much more than we know now. Yeah. What was the scariest thing that's happened to you and your team during an excavation? Excavation? Nothing really. Survey, flash flood. Me and a team were in a sandstone, or kind of a sandstony, bedrocky type canyon, and it started to rain. And we started to get out of there, but it was starting to get worse and worse, and it started flowing. You know, there was a little bit of stream flowing in the canyon, and so we just basically scaled the walls to get out. And by the time we got back to the vehicle, the canyons were flowing, like flowing with debris, whole trees and things like that floating down them. So that was pretty scary because I was with a bunch of people who were not familiar with the American Southwest, and so when I mentioned flash flooding, they didn't really believe me. And they only believed me when they saw how quickly a very small stream of water coming down the sides of the canyon became a rushing sort of flow. So yeah, that was fun. What would you do if you ever came across an Indiana Jones style ruin with traps? Document it. That's what we do. We document. Granted, anything that would have traps like that would not probably work anymore. Traps like that don't really exist. So, hate to get your hopes up, but if we came across ruins, we would document them, and if they had any kind of interesting things like sprung traps or traps that would have been sprung had they still sort of worked, that would be a really cool thing to document. And it would be, I mean, that's like thesis material right there. Okay, that's doctoral thesis material is traps like that. So that's what would happen in the real world. We would document. What's exactly the career you studied? Since you're an expert on classical archaeology. Oh, I'm an expert now. Well, thank you. Please continue. I'm fascinated by your channel. Oh, well, thank you. I studied classical philosophy. Oh, there you go. All right, well, no, I'm just messing with you. What exactly is the career you studied? Well, in community college, I studied what is considered, what is called CRM archaeology, cultural resource management. And that is basically, you know, somebody wants to build a mall out in the middle of nowhere, they have to hire archaeologists to do a survey of the site. And so they contact firms that have archaeologists on staff, or they float out a job and everyone bids on it, and we go and survey that stuff. That's CRM archaeology. There's some other things to it too, but that's the big gist of what CRM archaeology is. That's what I started doing. And then I did CRM archaeology, but I always wanted to do, you know, the classical world archaeology. And that's something that fascinated me, and that's something that I studied up on a lot in my own time, to the point where when I went back to school to get my bachelor's, I didn't really need to take notes. Half of the books that were, you know, assigned reading, I owned already, and I had read cover to cover. So, so my associate's degrees are in anthropology with a cultural focus, anthropology with an archaeological focus. I have 3 different certificates as well for direct employment, which is GIS, which is basically digital mapping, field techniques, and lab techniques. And then for a bachelor's degree, I have a double major in classical civilizations and anthropology with an archaeological focus. So that is the career that I studied, is archaeology. I purposefully kept it sort of broad in order to be hireable, to be bankable, to have bankable skills. And so far it's worked out pretty well for me, since I've done some CRM archaeology. I've worked for the Park Service, not as an archaeologist, as a park ranger, interpretive park ranger, and I've done some other things as well. I'm a very bankable person that can be used in many different fields for whatever. I mean, heck, I've got this YouTube channel doing this thing right now, and so that's pretty bankable too. At least some people think so. However, before I get on to the misconceptions and grave robbing topic, I'm absolutely disgusting and gross. It was a long, nasty day. I'm gonna clean up. So, other Daskalos, I don't know, entertain them while I go do this. All right, be right back. Okay then. Wow, I kind of put on the spot. Tell you what, why don't I answer some of your Minecraft questions, right? Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Best way to answer your Minecraft questions is, well, All right, first question. If you continued the excavation series, would you consider structures like ocean ruins? I think it'd be neat to see your interpretations of them. Well, you know, that question comes up an awful lot in the excavation series. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I could from an, you know, like an archaeologist standpoint, but I mean, there's nothing really to be discovered. There's nothing to be dug up or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really think there's much that I could do. There's not a lot of stuff there that would give me sort of clues as to what it was used in the past. And some of these things are still being used. I don't know. Probably not, but you never know. The next ones are actually a bunch that I'm going to kind of group together. So it's all about archaeology in Minecraft. What is the most unrealistic part of the trail ruins? What is something that you think would make archaeology in Minecraft more realistic, or wish other people knew? How would you change how trail ruins are structure generated? All that stuff. Archaeology designed with a realism over gameplay mentality. Okay, so let's just go ahead and tackle this right now. What is the most unrealistic part of the trail ruins you're excavating? And that is how deep they are. They are incredibly deep. Each block is a 1 meter cube, and I was going down 30, 40 meters to excavate the ruins, and that's not really realistic. Now, I know some of you are already typing away in the comments, yes, there are sites that are buried pretty deep, but that is not very common. The common thing is to have sort of a semi-dispersed site, or having a site that's sort of still there but not as tall, with, you know, very few exceptions. The way I would change the trail ruins is I would actually make them a little bit more shallow, and I would make probably, you know, if they were on flat ground, I would make a hill up and over them. And I think that's a little bit more realistic. You had the one building that has a basement, and if that sunk in and got covered with dirt, you would have a depression in the ground. You have the tower and another building that are right next to each other, and a lot of that wall would probably support itself. So the tower, even though the tower wouldn't completely be there, you'd probably have a taller spot right there. But generally speaking, it wouldn't be nearly as tall as it is in the game. And some of it would be covered up, but it'd be a little bit more dispersed. The foundations would definitely be there. Once you removed some of the fallen material and the dirt that covered it, you would actually be able to see the foundations a little bit better. And using the materials that were around each of the buildings, you could sort of formulate what comprised the construction of that building. I don't know if that makes much sense. Maybe I'll get into it a little bit later. The other thing is that, you know, I keep getting asked this idea about archaeology in Minecraft and reality and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, the developers, and this is going to be something that not a lot of people are going to agree with me on, but the developers actually took a very realistic aspect to archaeology, air quotes, in Minecraft, in that the ruins are just there. And you know, in the real world, you have archaeological sites just there. And you have people that come across them and take things and steal things. They don't have the incentive to do things the proper way in the real world, with exception, of course, to, you know, laws and stuff like that. So I think the developers actually got that part right, because the average player comes across the trail ruins and thinks, oh, stuff, and they loot it. And that's kind of how it's always been for a long time. Now, I think that if, and I don't know how they would do this, but if the developers somehow made an incentive for systematically excavating, I think that would be a cool way to go. I don't know how they would do that, though. I'm not really sure what the whole process of that would be. It's a tough one, but generally speaking, I think they got it pretty much you know, accurate in that ruins are just there, and you know, people can loot it, and that kind of sucks in the real world. Actually, it sucks a lot in the real world, and it only kind of sucks in the Minecraft world. But there are no real repercussions in the Minecraft world for looting it. So yeah, I think they actually kind of knocked that one out of the park, with the exception, of course, to design. Yeah, I'm still here. Let's answer some questions. Do you have any hobbies besides what you were showing us in your videos? So besides geology and Minecraft and things, geology, I think you meant archaeology, not geology. Yeah, actually I do. Obviously, that. I'm a motorcyclist. I like to do motorcycle things. I write, I draw, mostly pen and ink. That's actually what got me to be semi-lucrative in the archaeology world when it comes to jobs, is I did hand-drawn maps, and nobody really likes doing hand-drawn maps for some reason, but I did, so I got hired a lot because of that. But yeah, I mean, standard guy stuff, you know, camping, hiking, shooting, peeing in the woods, that kind of thing. But other than that, yeah. Oh, I took up carving once for a little while, so I can kind of do that. Yeah, I mean, just some random stuff, but mostly motorcycling, riding, drawing. Let's see here. Celebrity crush. Okay, so look, I'm kind of an older dude. No, I'm not like that old, but I'm kind of older, and crush is sort of like a kid thing, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't say that anything I have is like a crush, because that seems semi-juvenile, and I don't know. I don't see. All right, fine. Celebrity crush, Selena Gomez. Not only is she absolutely stunning, but the way that she reacts to people who, you know, try to criticize her about her body, what she wears, how she does things, is just top notch. Yeah, that's my kind of woman. So anyways, and I'm not that much older than her anyways, so yeah. But here's the thing, it doesn't really matter, right? Because, well, she doesn't watch this channel, at least I don't think she does. And, you know, I'm kind of a nobody. She's a singer and actress, and so, you know, I'm just some random pasty white guy with a YouTube channel who also does kind of cool stuff out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, so it doesn't really matter. And don't go and harass her, for God's sakes, if you do know her. Though if you do know her. Anyways, all right, let's see here. Classic question for me to ask: potatoes or salad? Well, I guess, you know, the college answer, of course, would be potato salad, but we're not going to do that because that's a cop-out. We're going to draw a hard line in the sand. Potatoes or salad here. And I guess potatoes, they're a lot more versatile, though I suppose if salad is going to be sort of a general term, like the greens and also potato salad, macaroni and salad, stuff like that, taco salad, you know, I'd have to go with salad if we're going to go for a general term. But if we're going for precise terms, I'm going to go with potatoes. God, I sound like a psychopath. Okay, you know, tell you what, let's get back to the Minecraft Daskalos and see what he's up to. What tool, building block, or machine or game mechanic would you as an archaeologist want to see added to Minecraft in order to enhance survival gameplay, but be related to pre-industrial civilization? That's a really good question, and when I first read that, I thought about it a lot. And to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, you know, we have horses, and the ability to put chests on donkeys, maybe like horse-drawn carriages, that would be kind of cool. You know, we have chest boats, and it would kind of be the same thing. You could pretty much just take a chest boat and put 2 sticks on it that, you know, went to the horse and a couple wheels, and it'd probably work. But yeah, maybe a horse-drawn weapon or a horse-drawn wagon. Yeah, Yeah, I don't know. Ooh, spears? Spears would be nice. You know, they have swords and they have axes, but swords didn't really come first. Spears were first, generally speaking. Spears are easier to make. You can make more of them. For a single sword, you can make 5 or 6 spears, right? And spears are very handy. I mean, it's basically a knife on a stick. And so if you have things like boars or, you know, in Minecraft what would be hostile mobs, you can hit them from farther away. And it's not archery, it's not atlatls or anything like that. So you're not really reaching really far out there, but you can keep things at a distance. And I think, you know, spears would probably be a good addition to the game. You know what? The ability to break things down. I mean, how many times have you killed a skeleton in the game, not in real life? Why? How many times have you killed a skeleton in real life? I mean, you know what? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. In the game, how many times have you killed a skeleton and got a bow, but you already have a bow? It would be nice if, let's say, you need a fishing pole, you could take that bow that skeleton dropped and break it down into its individual components like sticks and string. And then you could use those to make a fishing rod. Or how many times have you, I don't know, accidentally made, you know, a stack of buttons rather than sticks or whatever, you know? I think breaking stuff down into its individual components would be awesome. You can take string and make wool, but it'd be nice to be able to shear a sheep and get a whole bunch of string from it. Again, you know, for a fishing rod or something. Anyways, that would kind of be my... I'm kind of going on a rant there. You know, the ability to... Ooh, copper tools and weapons. Copper. I mean, we go from stone to iron. There was a whole age in the middle there that they totally skipped, which is bronze, but it's fine. We could go with copper instead. Yeah, copper tools and weapons or copper armor. That'd be kind of nice. Anyways, I could probably go on a rant like this for a long time, so let's just move on. Let's go ahead and leave him with some early game stuff, and we'll check back in with him later. For now, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode, and we'll come back for episode 2 of the question and answer series. But until then, see you around. God, it's nice out here.